Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Biz Buzz. Today is all about focus. We know we have those to-do lists, and getting through them can be really quite the challenge. So I'm Natasha Mitchell, and I'm joined by my good friend Leigh Mitchell, and we're just talking about focus in real life. So hi, Leigh, how are you? Looks like you're out enjoying the sunshine today.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about the shiny syndrome today, and so I'm shining, and I am in sunshine. So I think this will really resonate with everyone when we get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly being outside and in the fresh air and in nature is actually a really great way to get refocused and a bit of a reset and get re-energized. So with the nice weather coming, we all have a chance to do that. As people are joining us today, if you want to jump in the chat and send us a message and weigh in on this conversation, that's amazing. But without further ado, we'll just jump in and sort of share a few tips. Leigh, I was reading some interesting articles as we get into this whole topic of focus, and it's something that we kind of all intellectually know, but when we start to apply it in our own daily lives, it can be a bit challenging. So one of the things that, one of the quotes that I read, which was really interesting, was about concentration. And it said concentration means control of attention, the ability to focus the mind on one subject, object, or thought, and at the same time exclude from the mind every other unrelated thought, idea, feeling, and sensation. So we know that that's a pretty tall order for everyone. So can you just share a little bit of how focus or lack of focus maybe affects you day to day in your business and life?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. For sure, focus is a challenge for everyone, especially if you happen to work from home, which many of us are. There's just distractions everywhere, whether it be an extra family member who's working in your office area, or perhaps a pet, because we all know about the whole pet surge in the pandemic. And also just focusing on the tasks that you have at hand. There could be many things that you're trying to decide what is the most important thing to focus on, and it's not always easy. I often just sort of try to think of, like, what are three things that I really need to focus on today to be successful, right? And one of them, I most definitely has to be focused on my happiness, right? Like, what is some daily thing I can do just to bring more enjoyment while I'm working? So, yesterday, for example, I was doing a lot of marking. I've got marking that's due for my courses that I'm teaching at the University of Guelph Humber. And I've got to get it done, right? Like, I was talking to other teachers, they procrastinate it because it's like there's a specific deadline, but everyone tends to leave it to the last minute, right? Because you're looking for that perfect time. When am I going to be able to focus? When's the perfect time to focus? So yesterday I turned on the music and just tried to get into a groove, get into a good flow. But oftentimes, we tend to get focused on the things that maybe are the most pleasurable to do. Maybe it's the stuff that maybe you're like a very artistic person, right? So you spend more time on, crafting those graphics if you're an entrepreneur than actually doing, the work that's going to land you more financial thrive financially, right? So you really have to be clear on what is going to get you the most ahead, right? And not go after those shiny objects that could seem pleasurable in the moment, but maybe aren't the things that you should be doing, right? So, like, really getting strategic about what's going to get you ahead, both professionally, financially, and in a pleasurable state as well.
Yeah, well, I really liked that you've touched on the fact that one of the key priorities for the day is happiness. So I mean that's
Mhm.
really important. I think it doesn't always have to be about work, 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 and I think getting in that frame of mind around happiness, and then looking at the tasks that we have on our plate and seeing how you can infuse some of your overarching intention of happiness in there can be really powerful stuff as well. And I see we've got a few people joining us. Thanks. Hi, Willie. A few other people joining us live. Nice to see you all. We're talking all about focus today and how that affects you in your business and life, and some, just basic things that you can do to get refocused. So join in the conversation. Again, when we it can be very obvious that distractions, like an immediate distraction, can be something that affects your focus. And the good old cell phone and social media is like the number one distraction I think that we all have. Some research shows that actually just looking at your cell phone can cause you stress and distraction. So one of the tips, which I thought this was a really great one, was actually put your cell phone away. If you're actually doing some dedicated time, Leigh said she was doing some marketing, while you're doing that marketing, put your cell phone away for half an hour. It's really amazing how that can help. Some of the other things that we might not realize that are affecting our focus, but just something to be aware of. Like if you're feeling really unfocused all the time, then you might want to think about some other things. So not only the obvious distractors, but not getting enough sleep can impact your focus. We've talked about getting outside and physical activity. That can really have an impact on your focus, and particularly when we're always sitting down at the computer, and work from home and lockdowns and all of those things has really impacted that. Your eating habits can absolutely affect your focus and your concentration. And the other point they really touched on was the environment. So lighting, noise, Leigh, you mentioned music. Some music can be distracting, and some music can be more calming. So I think also if you're feeling always distracted, and it's really hard for you to like buckle down and do those tasks. And we're going to talk about some other, so there's some of the factors contributing. We'll talk about some other tips to how you can overcome that. But it might just be interesting to look at, the big picture of health and wellness. One thing they definitely speak to is eating breakfast in the morning. So I am a breakfast eater in the morning. I don't know about you, Leigh. Are you a breakfast eater or not a breakfast eater?
I am. I've been trying to start my day off with a smoothie. I was thinking of you the other day because my husband just picked up Vegemite. He spent $16.99 on Vegemite, and anyone from Australia would be like, it's like $5 or $4 if you were buying it locally. But yeah, like just a good breakfast is important. Something that's easy to put together, that's healthy, that nourishes you, and that's not going to weigh you down for sure. So I love that, talking about just daily habits. That's important.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about a few tips so that if people are watching, they can get some quick, easy tips. Leigh, you've mentioned a few already. You're focusing on an overall intention of happiness or joy or whatever it is, whatever intention you want to set for yourself. And you've also talked about, focusing on things that, and there's some balance. Sometimes you just want to do the fun things, but there usually is like one priority item that can move your business along more than anything else you're doing. So think about what those things are. And I think the other thing to think about when we really are resisting doing something, and we often do resist on doing the hard things for our business, whether it's making that sales call, whether it's writing that email, whether it's writing that post, whatever it is, having a bit of a look at and understanding what's the resistance about. Are you just scared? Are you just feeling embarrassed? Are you feeling unsure? Or is there really a skill gap? It's like, I just don't know how to do this. I don't know how to make a sales call. I don't know how to write this email. And I think understanding what the cause of that is can help you take the right next action to to change that.
Yeah, I really agree. We also talked about daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, and even a 3-year plan. Like, what is it that you want? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And then sort of taking a step back and breaking it down. It's overwhelming when you have big goals, right? So you have to really chunk them down, even financially, right? Like if I want to make a certain amount of money, what are the tasks that I have to do? So that's important as well, just really understanding what you want, putting it down on paper, and having specific planning times
Yes.
to stay focused on what you really want and how you're going to get there, and not letting fear or maybe a negative mindset enter into that. I also liked how you talked about getting enough sleep. I think that's critical.
Hmm.
I've been making a point of going to bed earlier lately. And I know the big difference when I change up my routine and do something out of the ordinary, and it can, like just exhaust you, right? The next day, if you do something, like for example, last Tuesday, I went to a really fun evening networking event with some friends, and I didn't get to bed until about 12:30, 1 o'clock. Well, the next day I was just dragging myself, right? So,
Yeah.
being clear to know, like, play it forward. What's going to happen when I make certain choices, whether it be like having that extra glass of wine, or um, not getting exercise in. I think that's another really important thing, right? Like, what are you doing to um, have an energetic mind, right? So that physical and mental fitness is really important. Meditation, right? Like having meditation in your life can really help you to focus or refocus when you're exhausted, right? So sometimes I'll just lie down and do a quick 10-minute meditation if I'm really tired, and then that helps
Hmm.
to rejuvenate me. I'm also trying to do morning walks with my dog. So we go into the trail, while it's not too muddy, and just, enjoy nature. I think about work. I think about what I want to accomplish. And then I go back, and then I'm not like distracted thinking about, oh, I haven't gone out yet, or I haven't taken the dog out. I try to do the most important things first, get
Yes.
them out of the way, re energize myself. Just getting fresh air when you wake up if you're tired can help so much.
Yeah, absolutely. They're really great tips. The sleep, meditation, we all know that, connecting with nature, actually spending time with a pet can be really great as well. And also, along with that, sort of taking short breaks, when we're like intense in a task, and that's different to multitasking, which I'll talk about in a minute, but really like just taking a few minutes to reset. And it's interesting that you talk about sort of some choices we make if we have a late night or whatever that is. So this is not about not having fun or not enjoying yourself, but knowing what the implications of that might be the next day, to then perhaps not do your most pressing very in-depth thinking task the next day. Just manage your timing a little bit better. So they're all really great tips. One of the other ones that it was very interesting as I read this. Well, and two things I want to speak about. One is multitasking. We all think we can do multitasking. We actually can't. One thing at one time is ideal. And they even talked about, like listening to a podcast while you're writing an article. Those things require too much brain power. Listening to some gentle music and writing something is very different than trying to listen to a podcast and write at the same time. So, I think that's one way to increase the focus, but also manage your energy a little bit better. When we start doing all these multitasking things, it really starts to drain our energy and we burn out. And that also can really affect our focus. Um, Go ahead, Leigh.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great point. And also another thing that I've done for years now, and I admit that I don't always follow through, but I think about things like, money Monday, or social media Tuesday, or
Yes.
things like that, right? Like so like chunking things, right? So if I have a
Yeah.
bunch of financial things that I have to take care of, I usually do them on a Monday or a Friday. uh and then during the midweek, I'll look at like scheduling social media and thinking about what I'm going to get out there. Like, for example, our weekly biz buzz, we need to focus on how we can get this amplified, right? So I have to put in some energy and thought around how I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I really try to focus on, um, you know, spending a specific amount of time and just getting it done, getting it out of the way, and then moving to the next task the following day, which is probably going to be totally in a different area.
Yeah, that's great. And I see a few people joining us. If you've got
Mhm.
any tips on some people's
Yeah.
names I can't see, so just let us know, because we can't always see everybody's names, but
Mhm.
let us know in the chat if there's any tactics you do to help you with your focus. But yeah, they're all really good things. Theme days. And sometimes, I'm going to talk about this one in relation to the next point I'm going to make. But sometimes actually we just have to discipline ourselves a little bit and say, this needs to get done today, and I'm not doing anything else until I get it done. And just sit down and say, I think giving yourself timelines and say, in the next hour, I'm going to complete this task. You may or may not complete that task, but I think giving yourself a deadline and a set amount of time, not just, I'm going to do this sometime today. No, I'm going to do this, and I'm setting aside 1 hour at 10 a.m. to do this. That really can help you put your feet to the fire for the things that you don't love doing, but really have to get done. Yeah, go ahead, Leigh.
Yeah, no, that's a really great suggestion. One thing that I have is I went to the dollar store and I purchased a pretty little to-do wipe-off board.
Mm,
And so, like, when I'm really feeling anxious that I have been procrastinating something, I'll put down that, this has to be done. It's in a big font. And I hold myself accountable to that, right? So I'm starting to write things down more, and then I feel great when I'm able to check those things off my list and
yeah,
feel like I'm not being irresponsible.
right, right. And then those little reward systems, our brain needs those little rewards.
Yeah.
I try and do a similar thing. I write things down. I try not to have too many things on the to-do list each day, right? I don't have a list of 20 things. There's no way I'm going to get through that. I try and keep it same till about 3 things, or if they're just little things, like pay the bill, like I'll have a couple of those little things. But in terms of significant things, it will never really be more than 3. So that they're really good advice. And it brings me to kind of my last point here. We've talked about sleep, eating well, connecting with nature, not multitasking, taking breaks. This one I thought was really interesting, and I see a couple of notes coming through. So before I do that, writing down, I can't see the whole chat there. Writing down my tasks to do before. Can you read that whole note?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it says something that I find helpful is writing down my list of things to do the day before. I love it. So I know what I need to tackle the following day. And I think that's such a powerful technique, and I do
Yeah.
that as well, because usually my anxiety is higher in the evening, when I'm like realized, oh, I didn't get to that thing that I was supposed to do today, right? So then writing it down and having, like you said, 2 or 3 things that's on the list is really important. And then you can use the marketing term SMART, right? So SMART is specific. Sorry, SMART would be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? So thinking
Yes.
about that, right? So thinking about, is what I'm trying to take on attainable and realistic? That's something that you could just do a quick little acronym run through and see if what you're trying to accomplish is setting you up for success, or setting you up to be disappointed that you didn't do what you thought you would do.
Exactly. And maybe even taking that one step further that we talked about before, as you're doing those, SMART, I love the SMART acronym. And I think the thing that's missing from that is like, and what do I need to be able to achieve that? Is it a skill? Is it a tool? Is it a connection? What is it that I need to be able to make it attainable, realistic, and time bound, right? So maybe sort of adding that extra piece in, and what tool, or what, what's what's going to get in my way, or what support do I need to achieve that?
Yeah, that's smart, right? Because we all need to be comfortable with asking for help, or seeing, what resources do I have? Like, maybe it makes sense to pay a little money towards something. So for example, like just using my pet, tomorrow I have a really important day. I'm really excited. I'm being interviewed for something that's really important to me. So I'm going to have my dog go to the, his play place and get his, nails cut, and get him, do those things that I needed to do anyways.
Yeah.
But it just frees me up, not worrying whether or not she's going to, be bugging me or doing something to distract me while I'm being interviewed for this important opportunity.
It's really important to get those distractions. I think that's a great example, to get those distractions out of the way when you have something important on. Likewise, if you've got an important meeting coming up, close the door, tell the family, I'm not available for the next hour. Sometimes we forget that. I think particularly working at home, if you're in an office, you could kind of close the door or put a sign up and say, don't disturb me. Right now at home, you're like open target for any distractions that come your way. So really saying, hey, for the next hour, I'm not available. Please go and do whatever else you need to do, or lock yourself in your room, or whatever that is. So avoiding those distractions is really helpful. Leigh, the last point that I wanted to touch on, and this is something that I haven't typically seen in a traditional list of, tips to improve your focus. It kind of it leads into a little bit the meditation piece, and really sort of that training the brain, but it's specifically train your brain. And the article talked about showing how brain training activities can really increase our cognitive function and our abilities to concentrate. And they're things, and it helps with short and long-term memory. Things like, the Sudoku, jigsaw puzzles, maybe it's a Wordle, puzzles like that. It's something that we don't think about super often. So, the brain training. And it was interesting because as I read that, I was thinking about something that I was doing last night, and this is going to sound strange, but I haven't had time for a while to really read. Read a book. I've been so bad at doing that, I end up binge watching something on Netflix because it's a little easier, or I scroll through my Instagram. So we're used to these these quick sound bites. That's how we're used to getting information. And I love reading, but I hadn't read for a long time. And when I sat down to read, and I probably read for about an hour or so, but I really noticed how I wanted to be distracted to other things, how used to I was, getting like this instant gratification from all of these other things. So I think even the basics of, reading for half an hour or however long you want to, but, making it a habit to do more reading and more dedicated stretches of time than what we sometimes think into reading on social media is really not.
I love that. That is so true. And also what I love about reading, especially at night. So last night I made a point of, I just felt tired. And I'm like, okay, it's 9:00. I'm just going to get into bed. And I started to read my book, and I read for a half an hour. And then I was like, oh, I really feel tired. So I just went to bed, right? I made sure that before I got into my reading mode, I had brushed my teeth and gotten ready for bed so that I could just turn off the light and go to sleep. And it was refreshing. It helped me to, not with binge watching a show, you tend to maybe watch more than what you meant to, right? Whereas with a book, it's more I don't know, it just feels more intentional, because it doesn't it's not like another book pops up and says, you should read this book now.
Yes, exactly.
So it does keep you focused. So I really like that idea. I just wanted to let our listeners know that we've put the link to our Zoom room. So if anyone wants to join us for a private chat, if they want to tell us privately some of their challenges around focused, they're welcome to join us. So the link is in there. So in wrapping up, what do you think are if we had to choose 3 of our top tips to be able to share with our viewers, what would they be for you? What are your top 3 tips?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the 3 top tips for me, I really like the train your brain. I like the whole idea of reading, decompressing, journaling before you go to bed, turning off those devices. That certainly is not a sleep enhancer. They sort of then connect together, by training your brain and doing that kind of thing. You're going to sleep better. You're going to wake and be refreshed in the morning. And I think for me, the number one, I mean, obviously the planning is important, but I think stopping the multitasking and taking regular breaks are probably my top suggestions for focusing. I mean, we can do everything, but if you just had to pick one, I'd say start with train your brain, because I think everything else is going to flow from that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
so I think that's a really important one. Mental fitness is huge. And one of our members, Jessica Watson, she started a new career where she's training people with mental fitness with some proven techniques through, I believe it is Staten University. So, one of our members, Jessica, I'm sure she can continue to offer some additional ideas around that. She has an app and it does those things, right? So you have weekly tasks that you have to do to help with your mental fitness. That will also help you with your emotional resilience as well, right? Because we all get really stressed out when we have a lot going on. My number one tip would be, I would say, writing things down the night before, because I am an anxious person. And if I'm feeling like I'm behind, then at least I feel like I have more control. So I would say that would be my number one, followed by getting exercise, like having a daily routine that will help me to feel more focused when I do sit down. I'm not distracted thinking about, how I should be spending my day. I've been intentional about my day. I'm following my routine. So I know when I play, I know when I work, I know when I exercise, I know when I meditate. So I think those things really help. And we have a couple of more ideas that have come in. So let's see here. So I love what Willie wrote. So she has a very specific goal of, she reads 10 pages of a good book every day. So she has a specific measurable idea. And then Nazarene says, yes, the training of the brain to get into achievement mindset. Oh, that's beautiful. So great ideas here. So I think what we're going to do now is wrap things up, head over to the Zoom room. So I'll put that link in there one more time for people that are listening, and join us on the other side, ladies and gentlemen. If we have any gentlemen, join us on the other side.
Yeah, and if you're listening to the replay, feel free to engage in the comments, tag Leigh and I in those comments. We'll be reading the comments afterwards. If you've got a great tip on how to improve your focus, or you've got a challenge in staying focused, then let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. And as always, if you've got a topic that you'd like us to discuss on our next upcoming weekly Biz Buzz, then let us know that too. Thanks for joining me as always today, Leigh. Thanks everyone who joined us live, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
See you in the Zoom.